thank you all for coming. And I want to welcome you to the Ames-Story County 2022 Martin Luther King Day celebration. We are so excited that you are all here with us this evening, both in person and online. And so without further ado, we will start with Mr. Merrick Ryan. He is the Senior Patrol Leader for Troop 196.
Color guard attention. Will the audience please rise? Color guard forward march. Will the color guards post the colors? Salute our hand over heart, and please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The audience may be seated. Color guard dismissed.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Sabrina Shields Cook. I am the president of the board of directors for the Ames Community School District. It is my honor to gather with you tonight and to welcome you to the Ames Community Celebration in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King, who inspires us still today. We open each board meeting within our district by reading our purpose statement, in which we commit to equity and access that empowers every individual to reach their full personal and educational potential. We know that schools can make critical contributions in teaching the principles of justice, fairness, liberty, honesty, dignity, and truth. And while we recognize that we have not yet met these goals, we also want to acknowledge and thank you for joining with us to make progress towards the future we desire. I'd also like to take this opportunity to invite our community to participate in the development of our equity strategic plan, which is something the district is undertaking right now. Anyone in the community is welcome to participate in that process, and you can find more information on our website or social media. As we start the remembrance today, I want to leave you with this quote from Dr. King. One day, children from India will ask, "What is hunger?" Children from Alabama will ask, "What is racial segregation?" Children from Hiroshima will ask, "What is the atomic bomb?" Children at school will ask, "What is war?" You will answer them. You will tell them, those words are not used anymore. Like stagecoaches, galleys, or slavery, those words are no longer meaningful. Thank you again for joining us on behalf of the Ames Community School District.
I apologize for that brief exit. But good evening. I'm Vanessa Baker Latimer. I'm a member of the MLK Planning Committee and the Housing Coordinator for the City of Ames, and I'm honored to be your MC this evening. But before we continue with the program this evening, if there's any elected officials in the audience, whether local, state, or federal, would you please stand and be recognized? We also like to take a brief moment of silence to just support and recognize our firefighters, our hospital personnel, and other people out there as we work through another year of the pandemic. We want to honor and thank them for their service, and so we'll just have a moment of silence. Thank you. History tells us that 2022 marks the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's assassination, and although his death was tragic and violent, he left us a great nonviolent legacy in which to strive to continue to bring greater equality to our community by ensuring civil rights for all people, regardless of their color of their skin. He would have been 93 years old today. The good news is that your presence and participation here in person or online shows that we honor and celebrate what he fought and died for. So on behalf of the MLK Planning Committee, we want to welcome you to this year's event. And next, we'll have the second greeting. Our first greeting, I apologize, was Sabrina Shields Cook, who is the board president of the Ames Community School District. And next, we'll have Latifa Faisal, who is the chair of the Story County Board of Supervisors, followed by Mr. John Haler, mayor of the city of Ames.
Thank you, Vanessa. Good evening. On behalf of the county, it is my pleasure to welcome you tonight as we recognize and celebrate the life of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. I spent a lot of time thinking about what I should say this evening. How do I use the few minutes I have with you to adequately honor the work of this great man? And how, too, do I honor him by calling out the work we still have yet to do? Dr. King said, "So long as I do not firmly and irrevocably possess the right to vote, I do not possess myself. I cannot make up my own mind. It is made up for me." Recently, there have been changes made to election laws in Iowa. Polls close an hour earlier. The timeline for voting by mail has been reduced. There are new restrictions on who can return absentee ballots and more. The question is, who will these changes impact most? They will burden the voices of those who already face the greatest obstacles to participation. To quote Dr. King again, "A law is unjust if it is inflicted on a minority that, as a result of being denied the right to vote, had no part in enacting or devising the law." I am not asking you to choose political sides. There's just no way to celebrate Dr. King's legacy without addressing restrictions on voting access, especially when African Americans, people with disabilities, and the poor will be the most affected. I am asking you to get involved. Register to vote. Volunteer at voter registration events. Talk to your elected officials. Participate in NAACP and League of Women Voters events, and help your friends and neighbors to vote. Vote for people who you believe care about you and your family's future. Vote for those people who truly represent you. And if you look around and you don't see anyone like that, then maybe that person is you. Thank you again for being here tonight.
Good evening. It's my pleasure on behalf of the City of Ames, as well as the Ames City Council, to welcome you to tonight's hybrid celebration honoring Dr. Martin Luther King. One of the core values held by Dr. King was serving fellow mankind. He said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? So tonight, to honor Dr. King's memory and continue working towards making Ames a more welcoming and stronger community, I'm going to paraphrase Dr. King's quote and ask each one of you, what are each one of you doing for others in Ames? Because until each of us take responsibility and really start applying our own efforts, we're not going to get very far. It's not somebody else's problem, it's our problem to work towards. So tonight, I encourage every one of you to join me in building new relationships with people in Ames and people that may not look like you and may be different from you. To engage in open and honest conversations with others. And I can share with you that one of the joys I have had as mayor and serving you is getting to know so many different people, many who are not like me, and how rich my life is because of that. And ask them what you might be able to do for them. I believe by taking these steps, you will help make Ames a more welcoming and safe community. You'll experience, like I have, a richer and fuller life, and you'll also honor Dr. King's memory. So once again, on behalf of the City of Ames, thank you for taking time to come out and to celebrate, to participate. This is an important evening, and I look forward to the rest of the program. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Before we start our next part of the program, I just wanted to take a few moments and recognize the sponsors of this year's event. They're located in your program and on Facebook, but they're so important to the success of our program. And that's the Ames branch of the NAACP, the Ames Chamber of Commerce, the Ames Human Relations Commission, the Ames Police Department Foundation, the Ames Public Library, the Ames Community School District, the Ames Water Plant, the Body of Christ Church, the City of Ames, Hastings, Garden, and Buckner Attorneys at Law, Hy-Vee, Iowa State University Library, the League of Women Voters of Ames and Surrey County, the Rotary Club of Ames, Ain and Edna Clinton and Family, United Way of Surrey County, and the YWCA ISU. Please give them a round of applause for their support. Okay, now you know we can't have an MLK event without our Meeker students, right? They've just been the fabric of our celebration every year. And although they cannot join us in person tonight, they will join us by video, led by Mr. Graham, singing Martin Luther King, so please see them on video.
Martin Luther
That was still good, right? We enjoyed them so much, and we'll hope we have them in person next year. And they were so just excited about coming, but hey, we made it through. So we thank Mr. Graham for his efforts in making sure that we had the presence of our Meeker elementary students as part of our program this year. Okay, next on our program is the presentation of our essay contest. This was our second annual essay contest where we invited high school students from around Ames-Story County to participate in the essay contest regarding Dr. Martin Luther King's Birmingham jail letter. And just wanted to hear their reflection on what that meant to them. And so we put it out, and we had a lot of participation this year. We received 16 essays, and we had received 5 last year, so we're really excited about that, that we had so many students participate this year. And part of the program, part of the essay contest is that we had a panel of judges that read each of the essays anonymously. They didn't know what school they were, they didn't know what their names were, they didn't know anything but the essays. And so they were able to read those and then tally the top 3 winners of the essays. And so we have all 3 essay winners here tonight, and we'd like to bring them on stage. Because of our sponsors, we were able to award the first place $100, the second place $75, and third place $50 gift cards. And so we'd like to present our third place winner. It's Alex Barron. He is a senior at Roland Story. Congratulations, Aaron. Alex. And our second place winner, we'd like to award to Cade Murphy. He's also a senior at Roland Story High School, and congratulations, Cade. And our first place winner for this year's second annual contest, it's Nathan Imes. Nathan, congratulations on him being our second annual first place essay winner. And so we want to give Nathan the opportunity to share his essay with you tonight. So I will turn the podium over to Nathan.
Born as Michael in the early 1930s, in a country battling itself in regards to its morals, Martin Luther King Jr. was preordained to become one of the United States' most important historical figures. His legacy continues to grow as men and women around the world continue to follow in his gracious footsteps to shed light on the flaws still hidden within today's justice system. While fighting for the God-given rights not completely granted to African American individuals at the time, King pummeled into conflict after conflict, and at one point even saw himself in jail. In 1963, King was leading protests, which seldom became violent, in Birmingham, Alabama. Unfortunately, his efforts proved unsuccessful, as protesters were hosed with water and attacked by police dogs. Many were injured and arrested during the protests, but what caused an even larger predicament was the lack of bail funds. King and his posse of activists were not nearly as prepared as they may have thought, thus leading to their eventual arrests. It was then that King arrived at his cell and penned the famous Letter from Birmingham Jail, while being tried in court for violating an anti-protest order. His letter simply explains that people have the responsibility, moral or not, to eradicate laws that are unjust to the common individual. Here, King writes, quote, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly," end quote. His words struck a chord with the townsfolk, as most of his scriptures served as an account of the many journeys taken to achieve civil liberty. King's words carry a rather simple motif, and he makes it clear that what he is saying is true, especially with what he wrote prior to this quote. His intentions lie within the words, quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere," end quote. This, in layman's terms, simply insinuates that if we, as a collective assembly, differentiate each other based on our physical characteristics, then the differences we emphasize will be our own demise in the future. We cannot think of each other separately from other people around the world, as we are the human race. The actions we perpetrate will affect others, and what others do could or will affect us in the near future. King himself even states that those who reside within the United States should, quote, "never be considered an outsider anywhere within its bounds," end quote. On the other hand, he is not exactly saying that we must simply ignore our differences entirely, but to embrace them, and to simply follow the golden rule. Treat others how you would want to be treated. Seems rather understandable and rational to believe, but according to King's testimony, it was quite the opposite. During his detention, the clergymen criticized King's nonviolent protests in Birmingham, saying they, the African Americans, should pick their fights in the court and not in the streets. They concluded their rant by explaining that the issues at hand were caused by the outsiders participating in the protests. This eventually led to Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter, which pulls apart and dissects the clergymen's rickety claims against the African Americans. To say that Martin Luther King Jr. made an impact in the civil rights movement is quite the understatement. His endeavors eventually proved successful, as his words shine gold in students' textbooks across the country, and perhaps even the world. Legally speaking, the United States has improved tenfold. Serving as a tangible account of the long journey to freedom, the letter helped influence positive changes to laws that govern common towns and cities. For example, segregation of public water fountains and restrooms in Birmingham was terminated. This in particular may not sound like much, but small steps led to an ample amount of dirty laws being ameliorated to fair, more stable edicts. Moreover, King's letter only represents a fraction of his accomplishments, with some including his leadership in the Montgomery bus boycott, Birmingham protests, and, most importantly, the Great March on Washington, in which he helped lead over 200,000 people in protest of inequality against African Americans. It was then that King spoke his mind and read a 16-minute speech known as "I Have a Dream," which, as a result, changed the course of history for people living in an oppressive era.
Thank you, Nathan, and congratulations again. And next year, we hope to have our third annual essay, and we're inviting, again, all of the area high school students to participate. So please look forward to that. We would love to get participation from all of our schools in Ames and Surrey County, okay? Thank you. Now, the next part of our program is that one of the things that Martin Luther King talked about a lot was that one day that all of us would not be judged by the color of our skin, but the content of our character. And so this next video presentation is something that was just placed on my heart to do, to think about that and his words regarding that. And so this video is called "I Have a Dream." And the background music is called "New Day," that was written and performed by Peter Thompson and Abdul Muhammad. I haven't had the opportunity to view it yet, but I know we work with a great team, and you're going to really enjoy "I Have a Dream."
Today I woke up, and what did I see? A boy shot, a man cuffed, a woman locked up, and they looked just like me. And on the TV I saw brown babies in cages, with no money, no power, and no mama's embrace.
We make the same mistakes. We think we need to live afraid, rising on by keeping others down, but we can work to find a new way. But I also see folks standing up, speaking out and fighting injustice. Though it feels dark now, we won't fear, we'll make it through.
'Cause I can see the dream of a new day living in you, and I can feel the hope of a new day rising in me. But until we get there, let's walk this road together. Stand up for each other until we are free.
To my brother I promise, while it's still called today, I face the sins of my fathers and I'll go another way.
To my sister, I'm with you. I'm committed to see your life with no limits. To you were all that you were made to be.
For those a little different by any other name, we're all God's creation and we love you the same.
And to our children we say, hold on, change is gonna come. We'll fight for you.
We'll fight for you,
and we can do all we can. 'Cause I can see the dream of a new day living in you, and I can feel the hope of a new day rising in me. But until we get there, let's walk this road together. Stand up for each other until we are free. This ain't some feel-good moment. We've got a lot of work to do.
Until the promise of freedom is not just for a privileged few.
Let's lift up our voice. We need each other now. A better day is coming, and we can show each other how. 'Cause I can see the dream of a new day living in you, and I can feel the hope of a new day rising in me. But until we get there, let's walk this road together. Stand up for each other until we are free. Stand up for each other until we are free.
I want to thank all the teachers and parents that helped make this video a reality, and to remind us that the children are our future and we have to teach them the way to go. So thank you for everyone that participated in that. Next, we have the presentation of our Ames Humanitarian presentation, and I'd like to welcome to the stage Jemai Fisher, who is Chair of the Ames Human Relations Commission. Jemai?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jemai Fisher. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve as the chair of the Ames Human Relations Commission. It's an absolute honor and privilege to share space with you all and present this year's Humanitarian Awards. During the month of January, during the citywide celebration of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the Commission recognizes and honors a worthy individual or organization. Their contributions to our community demonstrate extraordinary quality, especially in efforts to promote diversity, inclusion, and equity. We proudly call this the Humanitarian Award. This year, the Commission has decided to award both an individual and an organization. The first award will be presented to Annika Mundell. Annika serves as a Community Impact Director at United Way of Story County. Her nominator wrote, Annika has been promoting understanding between people throughout her entire career. Annika, thank you so much for the wonderful work you have done and continue to do within our community. Annika, if you'll come up to the stage so I can present the award to you.
Well, this is one beautiful and heavy award. I'll try not to break it. So thank you so much to the Ames Human Relations Commission for the real honor of this award, and to the MLK Day Committee for figuring out a way to make this go in spite of Omicron. Thanks also to our nominators, and I'm speaking here on behalf of myself and the Immigrant Fund, the other recipient, as I'm involved with the Immigrant Fund, specifically to the Ames Interfaith Refugee Alliance and Jean Cressy for their gracious and apparently compelling nominations. Thank you also to St. Cecilia Parish and Business Office for being willing to be the nonprofit sponsor of the Immigrant Fund Initiative, and for all the work involved in that role, and also to the United Way Board and staff for their continuous support of my involvement with the effort. Of course, I need also to say thank you to my family, those who are near, and they don't normally have to claim me because we have different last names, but Max Elio and Nico Viatori, and my family far away who have always supported my lifelong passion for social justice, though it is certainly not an economically lucrative way to go. And also really to my parents and my family. For those of you who aren't aware, I was raised in a bicultural and bilingual family. My father is a displaced person from war-torn Europe. And so many of the experiences that I carried into this work come from my upbringing. Above all, however, many thanks are really due to Story County. First, to the 24 community members who joined me back in March 2020, sharing the same concern about immigrants' well-being in the pandemic and volunteering countless hours to make the Immigrant Fund possible. And you'll meet some of them here shortly. Nancy, Susan, and David are here tonight. These good-hearted folks gave their time and passions as trusted multilingual caseworkers, as landlord liaisons who hunted down rental verification forms, as donor thank you card writers, as grant writers, as financial collaborators, as spreadsheet keepers. I think you get the idea. As an idealistic youth, I had a quotation posted above my desk that said, "Never doubt that a small group of committed individuals can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." And I think the Immigrant Fund Committee is a shining example of the truth of this statement. And secondly, thanks are due, again to Story County, to the over 400 individuals and organizations, and beyond, actually as far away as New York and Oregon, that heard of the unparalleled need of immigrants and refugees in our community during the pandemic. And they responded by making donations of all sorts and all sizes, $10 from a piggy bank to full stimulus checks. Without these contributions, it would not have been possible for us to provide an astonishing $374,235 in rent and utility payments to keep folks housed. So I hadn't met Nathan before, and we did not, check quotes, but he also chose a quote that spoke to me from the letter from Birmingham County Jail. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King wrote those timeless words, "We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." Indeed, immigrants and refugees in Story County are our neighbors. They are often our frontline and essential workers, part of Story County's garment of destiny. They are folks who came to America, they came to Ames with the hope of a better life for their children and grandchildren. Many were fleeing violence, wars, and abject poverty. And for the sake of the next generation, they took a chance on this country, took a chance on this community where the language, the cultural traditions, the foods, and so on are unfamiliar. A country that is thousands of miles, often oceans away from their loved ones. So while my family's experiences are distinctive from those of immigrants and refugees today in Story County, I do know with absolute certainty that moving to a new country takes unbelievable courage. So thank you, Story County, for showing our network of mutuality, for demonstrating compassion, and in doing so, exemplifying what we can be and should be, welcoming and inclusive. This award is truly yours as much as it is mine or ours. So onward for 22, Story County, thank you so much.
The second award will be presented to the COVID-19 Emergency Fund for Story County immigrants. Annika talked a lot about that great work, and so I have my little summary here, but I think she did a way better job than I would have in talking about the great work that they've done. But again, it was organized in response to a need observed soon after the COVID-19 epidemic began to impact residents in Story County. And by November 2021, the fund had grown to $372,672 in donations. $361,476 of that was provided in assistance and had been provided to 125 individual households. What a great example of a group of dedicated individuals coming together to help those in need. We thank you for your service and dedication to our community. And so if those individuals who are a part or representing of that fund that was gathered by those individuals want to come to the stage to receive that award, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Just found out I'm supposed to say something. But what I will tell you, first of all, I can talk through a mask. I've been teaching for many, many years. I can make my voice heard. One thing I really would like to say is that this fund paid rent and utilities for this huge number of families, which was incredibly helpful to them, and many of them have told me how they don't know how they would have done it without this fund. But it also, and I heard this over and over, it made them feel that they were seen and honored as fellow human beings and parts of this community, which is something vitally important. And I just want to thank the community of Story County for this incredible outpouring of support in a time when many of us have felt sort of hopeless about what's going on in the world. This, for me and for many of us, was incredibly affirming of the human spirit, as our help was incredibly affirming to the refugees and the immigrants that we helped of their humanity and their membership in our community. So thank you to this community and for the love that you have shown to your fellow neighbors.
Wish I could share how much this has meant to me, to be able to see the testimonials. If I could just share those with you, how drastic the situation is of so many immigrants. The committee was limited to rents and utilities, and the caseworkers would come in and say, yes, but we have to get them a phone. We have to get them this and that. They need it, but we stuck to the rent and utility to stretch the money. Because you can picture what it means to a family to face eviction because of the virus and lack of support from the government to the immigrants. To be out in the street, have nothing with you, and who's going to rent to you once you've been evicted? The letters of testimonial are so heart-wrenching. This committee did wonderful work. I was pleased there to be able to applaud for them. Thank you.
Again, congratulations to the recipients. And just as a quick reminder, we'd like to take some photos toward the end of the program. And so if you're able to hang out a little while after the program to get those photos, that would be appreciated. Thank you all so much.
Thank you and congratulations. Next on our program is the introduction of our keynote speaker tonight, Dr. Jeffrey W. Johnson. Jeff is the 8th individual to serve as chief executive of the association in its 143-year history at the Iowa State Alumni Association. He graduated from Iowa State in 2014 with his PhD in higher education and administration. He grew up in Collins, Mississippi, married his 6th grade sweetheart, Peggy, and together they have 2 children and are the very proud grandparents of 2 grandchildren. There is so much I could share about to Jeff tonight, but I want you to take full advantage of his bio. So for more information, please, on his impact and his accomplishments in this community, please visit our Facebook page and our website for a detailed bio. Now, without further ado, I want to welcome to the stage my friend, Jeff Johnson, incomparable, talented Mr. Cyclone, to the stage.
Well, good evening, community. Thank each of you for joining us in person and online. Thank you for setting aside time in your evening to be a part of this important event. Thank you also to the members of the Ames Community 2022 Martin Luther King Jr. Day Planning Committee for inviting me to participate in this year's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. birthday celebration event. Finally, I know that for some of you, I am standing between your evening meal or favorite television show, or maybe even sporting event or a combination thereof. So I'll jump right into my remarks. As I contemplated how best to express all I wanted to say this evening, I kept coming back to the fact that Dr. King wanted all of us to love this country. He knew that for this to happen, we would have to find a way to also love each other. He knew that to hate was easy, but to love, on the other hand, would take work, commitment, and sacrifice. Now, many of you know that I am not fully myself, absent of my faith in God. Therefore, it is God's heart you will hear from me tonight. If I were to speak from my flesh on this subject, it would cause me to be unlovable. So God graciously has chosen greater for me. Such an attitude and a conviction also guided Dr. King's life. Like Jesus, he was able to stand in this world, withstand man's hatred, and carry out his Father's call on his life. Committing to loving one another is the only way any of us, regardless of our hardships or successes, will ever get through this earthly life. Some may even think at times that the smiling, happy-go-lucky, or happy-go-lucky hugging Jeff Johnson is naive and silent on issues of race, hatred, poverty, police brutality, voter suppression, public education, and other issues here in our own community and nation. But for those who really know me, they know otherwise. You see, I take a God approach to engaging in these life events. God simply delivered truth to whomever he spoke to about social ills of the day. Those encounters, sermons, or conversations, however, were never absent of love. So in keeping with the Martin Luther King Celebration Committee's request, I will speak to the theme, how has Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech impacted my life, and what lessons do I have for youth of today to be inspired to dream? For 4 of the 9.5 years that my wife Peggy and I existed as a married couple in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, to the 5.5 years our family lived in Lawrence, Kansas, to the 3.5 years we lived in Champaign, Illinois, to our now almost 23 years of living here in Ames, Iowa, a framed copy of Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech, which I received as an undergraduate student during my time at the University of Southern Mississippi, has hung in a public space in each of our homes. One criterion has guided its placement in our home. It must hang in a place where the person who might engage with it is by themselves, and they are not ever questioned on if they saw it or read it. Their hearts or consciences take care of that. What has amazed Peggy and me over these 36 years are the number of folks who have thanked us for making this speech a visible reminder in our home. The speech has allowed us to engage in many thoughtful and open conversations. If any of you have been in our home for any length of time, you know this space is our guest bathroom off of our kitchen. So how has Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech shaped my life? Here are my top 3. First, it clarified the hearts of the adults and my own parents to me. Secondly, it clarified the fact that the man who wrote and delivered this speech was a man of God, filled with faith, and he understood the important role the Black church plays in the community. And thirdly, it allowed me to believe in humanity and what can happen when we are neighborly. So I want you to pause with me for just a moment for a group activity. When certain years as well as certain dates related to our nation's history are communicated, these years or dates bring about similar mental pictures for many of us. As a list of few of these years or dates, let us see how many of these we can connect on. 1776, signing of the Declaration of Independence. 1791, the Bill of Rights ratified by 3/4 of the states. 1861, the Civil War. 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation signed. 1865, Abraham Lincoln assassinated. 1914, World War I. 1939, World War II. 1941, Pearl Harbor bombed. 1963, Dr. King delivered his I Have a Dream speech on the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. But also John F. Kennedy was assassinated, and I, Jeffrey Wayne Johnson, was born in Laurel, Mississippi. I know all of you had that mental picture. Then there are the 9/11 attacks, and most recently, the COVID-19 outbreak of 2019, and then the Capitol riot of January 6, 2020. So as I stated earlier, Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech clarified the hearts of adults and my own parents to me. One's childhood is important, as these are the formative years. The life experiences of these early years can positively shape us or negatively scar us. Early on in my childhood, I can remember vividly my father expressing hope for us as his children and our generation. My dad had a saying that some of you have heard me talk about or read some of my writings on it. From early conversations that we had with me, he constantly stated that it was important for me as the baby of my mom and his 10 children, to live my life from a place of luggage, not baggage. When I was growing up, between 1 and 6, I didn't see the signs that read coloreds or whites only. Plus, conversations about race must have been silenced because I don't remember hearing them. Our elementary school was in our community and located next to a black church. The school was not integrated, and no one talked about why it was not integrated. But our junior high and senior high schools were integrated. My brothers and sisters and I could take any seat on the school bus. White parents, now that I remembered it as I was preparing these remarks, drove their kids to the elementary school. I thought nothing of it in elementary because my dad did the same when situations deemed it necessary. I'll pause here to insert that necessary means that we had one opportunity to miss the bus, and it better not happen again. As my siblings and I got older, we began to realize that much of our rearing was a bit different from that of others in our community. Our parents had elected to believe that America would one day respect and treat blacks and their offsprings as full American citizens. This expressed the baggage of society and our hometown that my father had kept from us. This further exposed the hearts of adults on the issues of race. I later learned that the luggage, not baggage comment was my dad saying it was his responsibility to not burden his children with the cares of the day. He later told us that if we kept our noses clean, held firm to our personal dreams, worked hard, did our schoolwork, treated people right, trusted in God's provisions for us, stayed out of trouble, and not get bogged down with the social ills of the day, we could chart our futures. I was a child. I was part of his hope. I learned later, without my dad telling me, that Dr. King, in a big way, had shaped my dad's thinking and that of many other adults. I also stated earlier in my remarks that Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech shaped my life as it clarified the fact that the man who wrote and delivered that speech was a man of faith, and he was a man of God, and he understood the important role that the black church plays in community. You see, God, faith, and the black church were like salt, pepper, and sugar in my upbringing. They weren't just there, they were daily staples. As I got older and learned more about my slave ancestors, I found out God, faith, and a spiritual gathering place was considered staples of early slave life for blacks in America. Much like Coach T.J. Otzelberger, our current men's basketball coach, says, and I may be paraphrasing, defense travels. But you know, so does God, faith, and the black church experience. While life in this country was tough for blacks, simply because they were black, God, faith, and the church remained their constants. Blacks, me included, also never used religion to disguise or permeate hate. As Dr. King asked in his speech, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. The church for slaves was often a set of designated cabins on the plantations. Slaves also sang hymns in the fields when they gathered before and after hard labor, and even when they were being beaten, raped, or wronged, they consistently prayed to God without ceasing. As their families were separated, sold, and ravaged, again, God, faith, and the church sustained early blacks in this country. But the church, post-emancipation, became the black community's country or social club, or their gathering place. If you ever want to understand why we, as blacks, rely on our churches and ministers, just take a moment to study black life in American history. But I have some breaking news. Some people and groups are working hard to keep conversations and teachings regarding black history out of our public schools, and this is also happening near us. So as a black in the South, and probably other places, my family could not go to any country clubs. We weren't allowed to join social clubs, professional clubs, or even the League of Women Voters. So we dressed up and we went to the church. The church is where we got our information of the day, and we would commune corporately with God. It also allowed us to stay focused on hope when life offered no reason to believe hope was still a viable option. I learned later in my life, while I was pursuing my master's degree in higher education at the University of Kansas, that only 3 occupations in this country made up the early learned societies. These societies were set aside for doctors, lawyers, and clergymen. Early on in this country, black ministers could not let one know that they could read. Today, the church is still central to blacks and black communities. Like with Dr. King, blacks over the years have looked to ministers. It may be the reason people sometimes don't understand our love for Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton, Bishop T.D.A. Jakes, to help them make sense of the intersections of faith, social justice, the courts, policing, education, and voting. Finally, the third way Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech has shaped my life is that it allowed me to believe in humanity and what can happen when we are neighborly. Because of slavery, Dr. King, I believe, understood that many whites in America held on to their colonial beliefs that blacks were savages. Plus, before the Emancipation Proclamation, whites never intended to free slaves. And if they were to be freed, these same whites didn't expect these freed slaves to remain in America or survive on their own. So keep in mind that whites had an immigration or an Ellis Isle story. They came to America just as other immigrants did and still do today, looking for a better life. Some would say because of these factors, some whites even today refuse to see blacks as truly and fully American citizens. Because of this mentality, this would mean that I and my American-born children are viewed as non-citizens to some whites. But like my dad, Dr. King spoke to being neighborly throughout his life. I have a dream speech. To our young people of today, keep that hope alive. Find faith in something positive. Know that God cares for you. Commune with others and acknowledge all human beings you encounter, regardless of their race, gender, or station in life. And if you really want to make our world kinder, look all human beings in the eye, give them a smile, and then greet them with a hi, a hello, have a good day, etc. These Trinity actions, eye contact, a smile, and a greeting, do not add or subtract 1 second from any of our days. As to the latter point, don't get caught up either in the fact that some people may not acknowledge you back. Own the mental rest that will come to you knowing that you did a good act and you own a clean conscience. So I challenge all of us to examine our cultural biases and stereotypes. All of us should commit ourselves to providing an environment that is as inclusive in every way possible. Our goal should be to create a community where everyone can thrive and survive, not one that causes people to hide and collide. Against the backdrop of the rapid diversification of our world, it is my belief that many of us did not see diversity happening this soon in Iowa or in our nation. In a way, it has snuck up on us. Since the Emancipation Proclamation, the Civil Rights Movement, Dr. King's speech, Obama's election, President Trump's one-time presidency, and the insurrection, American citizens, especially blacks and whites, still struggle to talk about race and deal with differences. Many, I believe, even think we can live here together and not actually see each other. Most of our children have shown us how beautiful all of humanity really is. However, make no mistake, many others over the years have been re-entertaining old attempts to desegregate all over again. Dr. King's belief that we are brothers and sisters is still possible to be lived out And as I said, we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. He later stated, "Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood." We can make the unfinished work of his dream a reality, especially in matters related to voter suppression, white supremacy, hatred, and poverty. Again, Dr. King's faith-filled hope still exists today, even though recent politics and attitudes make this dream a steeper hill to climb. I'll end by sharing that on March 1st of this year, I will turn 59. On August 28th of this year, Dr. King's I Have a Dream speech will also turn 59. I have a dream that we will be celebrating the fulfillment of what it means to be true citizens of these United States of America. And so in the words of Lester Holt of NBC Nightly News, take care of yourself and each other, and good night. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was so inspiring. We really appreciate your time, your heart in speaking to us tonight, Dr. Jeffrey W. Johnson. Okay, as we're moving along with our program, we want to take this opportunity. We started this video presentation last year, and we wanted to continue this year to just celebrate those who embrace, not all those, but the community leaders and sponsors who have embraced the Martin Luther King quote that we asked a lot of you to please put on our Facebook page. So right now we're going to have that MLK video presentation. The background music is written and performed by Pastor James Huey. You know, we're fortunate for our MLK event. We've had 2 exceptional songwriters to write songs specifically for our celebration. And so this is that second song that will be presented as part of this video.
There was a man who believed in freedom, freedom for every color and skin. There was a man who believed in justice, justice for every one of God's children. There was a man who believed we were all part of one family. I want to be one to hold his legacy. I want to be counted as one who changes history. I want to be one who helps let freedom ring. I want to be one. There was a man who believed in equality, equality for all of mankind. There was a man who believed in victory, man who believed we were all part of one family. I want to be one to hold his legacy. I want to be counted as one who changes history. I want to be one, 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 one who helps let freedom reign. I want to be one to hold his legacy. I want to be counted as one who changes history. I want to be one, 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 one who helps let freedom reign. One who helps let freedom reign. I want to be one.
Ooh, I love that song. So thank you for allowing us to share that again with you this year. So I have some closing announcements as we end the end of our program, and just wanted to share with you. February is Black History Month, and I wanted to share a few events that will be occurring for your consideration and attendance. On Thursday, February 17th, is the annual Freedom Fund event hosted by the Ames branch of the NAACP. The event will be held at the Gateway Hotel and Conference Center. Our keynote speaker is Joshua Barr. Registration is now open at www.naacpamesiowa.com. Also, the Ames Public Library is celebrating Black History Month and diversity with programming throughout the month in partnership with a variety of community groups. And all events will be posted on the library's website at www.amespubliclibrary.org. Also, Iowa State University's website, please check it out for events for MLK and other Black History Month that are open and free to the public, so we wanted you to take advantage of that. Also, occurring in March, the 1st through the 5th, you don't want to miss this event that's being hosted by the Ames Parks and Rec Department, the Ames Public Library, the Police Foundation, ISU Lecturers Department, the Ames Human Relations Commission, in bringing what they call hip-hop culture performance by the Reminders. This will include workshops that will focus on positive expression through songwriting, music, and dance. And for more information, please check out the City of Ames Parks and Rec website or any of the sponsors mentioned for information and tickets that will go on sale. Also is the goal to get as many free tickets out to students across the community to participate. So if you would love to be a sponsor of these events, please contact Craig at the Parks and Rec Commission. And so that is a few of our announcements that we have that's coming up, and we appreciate your time and attention tonight. And so as we end the program, we're going to have Peter Thompson come up. And please have all the MLK committee members, our presenters, please come across the stage, please, and stand. We will separate social distantly, but want to have you come up. Mayor, Latifah, Jamai, just come across the stage in front of me. Spread out. Spread. Okay. Now, normally, George, we would have cake, right? So, during this time, it's not good to have cake, but we're going to have something, okay? So, as you leave tonight, thanks to Hy-Vee, we will have MLK cookies that we will be handing out to each one of you that are wrapped so that you can take them with you as part of the celebration of this year's event. So thank you, Hy-Vee, for producing these beautiful cookies, okay? All right, so let's all stand together and sing We Shall Overcome, performed by Peter Thompson. Thank you all for coming. I want you all to be safe, and we just continue to celebrate each other in our community using Dr. Martin Luther King as our guide, and have a great evening.
Sing it out good and strong. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome someday.
And those who were presented and participated, please stay for photos afterwards. And again, thank you all for coming in person and online. We love you. We'll see you in 2023. Be good, be safe, love somebody, hug somebody tonight, okay? Well, not here, when you get home. So good night.